Hi there Star Wars fans, this is Dave the Fantha Track's lucky mascot, and if this is your first time visiting and you like Star Wars news and reviews, then please subscribe to this channel. Today we're going to be looking at something that everyone is talking about if you're a Star Wars fan, and that is what is going on with the Han Solo movie. There's no merchandise yet, there's no trailer, there's no nothing, and like the whole world is in meltdown. The thoughts that I'm going to give today are literally purely my own and those of my fellow Fantha trackers. They're not necessarily the fact, but I am trying to apply a little bit of logic as to explain what possibly has been going on with the movie and why we've not had this huge marketing push just as of yet. For those who've never met me, I run a toy shop, and within the toy industry there are certain trends and similarities that go on, particularly where a lot of them are like movie-based toys. To kind of like put things into a little bit of perspective, we haven't really seen much in the way of like Han Solo or Solo movie merchandise as such, purely because of the time frames that we're talking about. Now within the toy world, it's fair to say that there are three big key points in the calendar that a lot of toy releases and reveals are around. Now, number one is like the New York Toy Fair, which happens in February. Number two is San Diego Comic-Con, which is in July, and number three is New York Comic-Con in October. Now that's not representative of absolutely everything, but a lot of marketing sort of reveals and push, and if you look at when that combines in, especially within like the movie entertainment industry and TV, video games and things like that, they do kind of like follow those kind of like sort of like key patterns. Now, Solo has fallen in between New York Comic Con and New York Toy Fair, but you've also had The Last Jedi in between, and with The Last Jedi you had like the Force Friday, and you know, as a sort of a big product reveal and push there. You can't really do that right here, right now with The Last Jedi, like literally in theatres or coming to the end of its run perhaps for a lot of places, but also the product is out there. You kind of need to kind of give a little bit of breathing space before you can then like put it out there. Also, the retailers themselves are never going to like touch it, because they're just like, well, hang on a second, you've asked us to invest in all like this Last Jedi product. We can't just literally clear the decks and just like move over to here. So we've not really seen much in the way of like kind of like merchandise reveals. Now this is kind of important, because it just goes to show that just how much merchandise really plays a part in the marketing of a movie. This isn't actually a bad thing, really. As a retailer at this point in time, we know that there's stuff that's coming. We know that there's Hasbro doing stuff. We know that Lego and some images have been leaked out of like potential sets from like Lego. But here's the thing, as a retailer, when things are launched early ahead of the product, ahead of the actual release of the film, there's no context, and people come in and you get an initial flurry of excitement and people wanting to buy stuff, but then for like the casual fan and the general public at large, they don't know what this ship is or that character or how it relates to it, so they just don't buy it. They just go with the products that they recognise, like from The Last Jedi, Chewie, Rey, Finn. What then happens is that those other new characters or vehicles, they just sit there until the movie comes out, and then when the movie is launched, it then, you know, there is no follow-up waves of stuff, because the existing stuff which hasn't sold is still sat on the shelves. So it is kind of like a vicious circle, and so in a way, this might not be what to everyone's like, but I actually prefer the fact that we haven't had the merchandise literally launched just yet. I think it's actually probably going to like serve the brand better by having it as a late release. Whoops! Someone didn't clear enough space on the camera. Anyway, all I was going to say is, that's not to say that you can't have the launch and the release of other merchandise such as clothing, stationery, homewares and things like that, because it's practical stuff that you'd be using on a day-to-day basis that will help hint and allude to what's going on with the film. Another area that has been seriously lacking in terms of the promotional push for this film has been like the magazine deals, where you have like Vanity Fair, and in the UK you have the Empire magazine. Again, it falls between this period of of when you can actually do these things. Historically, up until now, you've been able to like get these things out months before the actual release of the film, or months even before the actual release of any of the merchandise. But you can't do a magazine cover for something like Solo when The Last Jedi is on at the cinema, when you might be having magazine covers to actually promote the launch of that film. It doesn't work, you know, and it's confusing for people. If you don't believe me on that front, look at what Disney do with Rebels. They actually take a pause for every time for their movie releases. They never have it running through. So they literally get up to a point, go on hiatus, you know, it's mid-season break or whatever, and then they go through, have a new promotional period of whatever the release is, and then they bring back like the TV shows and things like that. You know, it is done particularly for that kind of thing, to literally, let's concentrate and have everyone's attention on this. You can't then do that with like a magazine deal. So again, those two things, the launch of the merchandise and things like magazines, have a huge influence of what we know and what we see about what's going on with the film, and looking ahead over, you know, what's coming out. You don't realize how powerful those things really are, and when you haven't got them, you really notice it. You know, I mean, everybody's talking about the trailer and everything like that, but like, we haven't had those elements. So they've been missing, as explained, and it's all down to the scheduling of when the film's released and when you can actually fit these things out. I dare say that in the next couple of months, we will start seeing like things like the magazine covers. Over the next few weeks, we will no doubt see a lot more Solo merchandise being released. We had the UK Toy Fair last week where Matt Booker was there, and he showed us that Revell were showcasing a advent calendar related to Solo. We know that Hasbro and Lego are creating products for it. We've also got the Nuremberg Toy Fair coming up, and then we've got the big one, New York Toy Fair, coming up in February. So we got a lot of key merchandise promotional periods that will start showcasing a few bits and pieces. I can't get my words out. What's going on? A few more bits and pieces related to like Solo there. We will probably also get in February onwards a couple of magazine deals like that then kicking in. It's not anything that's, you know, missing. It's just literally all down to scheduling. Speaking of, point number 2. Yeah, I kind of like thought this through. Point number 2 of why there's a bit of a delay is the actual trailer itself. Why haven't we seen a trailer yet? Well, I think, hand on heart, Disney probably do want to have had something out before now, and it would have made complete sense to get something in for The Last Jedi. However, it is public knowledge that Ron Howard stepped into directing duties within the film, and he was picking up at a point where the film, a lot of it had already been taken care of. Now there's two things here. What had been filmed wasn't necessarily what Ron Howard wants to use. And he needs to actually rack up filming time to be able to actually claim that director title for the movie. So even though a lot of it might have been shot and a lot of it might have been useful, he still needs to kind of like get quite a X amount of minutes or hours or whatever the time slot is to be able to claim that he is the director of that movie. He's not necessarily directing someone else's footage, because that's not directing, that's editing. Do you see where I'm coming from? With that in mind, when he came on board, the scheduling of these things, the actors involved and the teams and things like that, they may have moved on to other things, so you might not have been able to actually get what it needs to be done straight away. You know, you got to wait until their schedule's free up to like get them in, and we, you know, it's been documented and reported that there's been shoots which is normal, that's day to day, you know, reshoots, but like it's going on now. Now, part of me would say that in order to get that trailer ready, some of this stuff needs to be kind of redone and rehashed to a degree to be able to then create that trailer. You can also look at what was done for The Force Awakens, for Rogue One in particular, oh my word, and also The Last Jedi. There's a load of footage in there that has not actually even made it to the film. I mean, you look at the Rogue One ones, you can literally like pick like several scenes and cuts within that, you know, like TIE fighter hovering and stuff like that, that were never in the movie. So by having a late trailer release, it makes it tighter and truer to the film. But also I do believe that they just literally have not got the tools and things like that to be able to cut a trailer together, to be able to like put it out for when they wanted. Like I said, don't get me wrong, because you know, these people aren't that stupid, and some of the things I'm seeing on the internet and on YouTube are just like, you know, all kinds of things, from like Kathleen Kennedy being fired to they don't care about it. It's like, of course they do. I mean, like, what kind of like, just because you've got the information and you've not been told or anything like that doesn't mean that it's not that. They are, I'm trying to like open your minds a little bit as to possible reasons why, and it does kind of make sense, you know. So merchandise is number one, and it does a lot of pre-sale and a lot of talking. It allows you to like do lots of speculations, your magazine deals, and then your trailer. So that's not to say that is 100% the reasons why. That's like my perspective, and I am coming at that from a toy background, you know, looking at what happens in like releases and movies and stuff like that. I might be right, I might be wrong. So I asked the fellow Fantha Track team what their thoughts were as to reasons why there's like possible delays on the marketing and promotion of Solo. Number one, Ace reporter Matt Booker said, "I think it ain't ready, and the scheduling. Another Star Wars film is too soon, and the general population haven't got a clue it's coming." Features editor and contributor Carl says, "My tuppence worth, from a marketing perspective, there's still a lot of Last Jedi merch out there, which depending on the retailer is already being discounted. My feeling, they're waiting to close the door on The Last Jedi before hitting the full-on Solo media push. Hence, DVD Blu-ray release is a little earlier. I can see them going for it big style come the start of April, which is still 6 to 7 weeks before the movie hits." Features editor Paul says, "Why on earth Solo wasn't slotted into December 2018 rather than May is beyond me. The last 3 releases have done exceptionally well in the pre-Christmas slot. It now feels like The Last Jedi is being hurriedly swept away for Solo to take its place on the big screen, with no time for consumers to absorb Episode 8 and its merch, or prepare for Solo. It's going to need a seriously good marketing campaign to raise awareness by May. Even a year between films is no time at all. Back in the good old days, we had a 3-year gap between films and plenty of time for kids from not so well off families to save and collect all the action figures. These days, in an age of have it now, that special connection has been lost." Fantha Track's Uber editor Mark Newbold says, "Problem is, people are already so down on Solo, because everyone with a Twitter account is Monday morning quarterback and knows better than the next keyboard warrior what's best for the business." Events correspondent Martin Keeler says, "I don't think they have released a trailer because the current footage is all sexy scenes. Apparently Ron Howard is obsessed." Features editor Claire Henry says, "The merchandise for The Last Jedi was absolutely spot on for clothes, makeup, accessories, shoes, blah blah. Something that as a girl I didn't necessarily get into either of the other trilogies. I think Solo film needs to ensure that they build on this and start to aim their merchandise not at the older collector with exclusives." I asked Vintage Collectibles correspondent and co-host of the Vintage Rebellion podcast Richard Hutchinson, "Do you think there are any crossover plot points to come in the second season half of Rebels?" He said, "No." Thanks, Richard. So that was some additional insight from the Fantha Track team members. I hope you've enjoyed this. Like I said, it's based on like thoughts and opinions. It's not based on necessarily on fact, but kind of might help explain a little bit as to the kind of situation that we're in. By no means are we sunk here, because they know what they're doing, and we're talking millions and millions of dollars are at stake here. The Super Bowl is coming up this weekend, and that presents an excellent window of opportunity to really kickstart all of this. My name is Dave, and I'm the Fantha Track's lucky mascot. If you have enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you don't already, please subscribe. I'd like to know what your thoughts on the situation are. Please leave a comment below and we'll get back to you.